Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It's Friday, August the 8th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set for losses this morning with ASX futures down around 0.3%. President Trump's higher tariffs on export hit dozens of countries overnight, raising average US import duty to its highest in a century. Despite this, European shares registered their biggest daily gain in more than 2 weeks, with investors buoyed by a potential breakthrough to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. On Wall Street, the Dow and S&P eased, while the Nasdaq managed to close at a record high. Tech stocks rallied globally on relief that companies committed to US manufacturing would avoid tariffs. Apple shares rose after the latest tariff regime largely exempted the company from the threat to impose 100% levy on chips and semiconductors. However, chipmaker Intel fell after President Trump called for the resignation of the new chief executive, calling him highly conflicted due to his ties to Chinese firms. Eli Lilly raised its full-year profit and sales forecast but fell after the release of its latest drug data. Block reported a rise in second quarter income and raised its expectations for annual gross profit as the payments firm was helped by resilient consumer spending, lifting its shares more than 12% in extended trade. Shares of Fortinet plummeted after the cybersecurity firm gave a revenue forecast below estimates. And Pinterest missed Wall Street expectations for second quarter profit, overshadowing robust revenue and user growth, sending its shares down more than 8% in extended trade. And President Trump has signed an executive order that will allow private equity, real estate, cryptocurrency and other alternative assets in retirement accounts. That clears the way for private equity and other fund managers to tap into trillions of dollars of Americans' retirement savings. Well, the US Customs Agency has begun collecting higher tariffs after weeks of threats from President Trump amid a flurry of trade negotiations with countries seeking to lower them. In a social media post, President Trump said billions of dollars, largely from countries that have taken advantage of the United States for many years, laughing all the way, will start flowing into the USA. Well, the leaders of Brazil and India vowed not to be cowed by the president's hardline bargaining position, even while their negotiators sought a reprieve from the highest tariff levels of up to 50%. Meanwhile, President Trump is nominating Council of Economic Advisors Chairman Stephen Moran to serve out the final few months of a newly vacated seat on the Fed Reserve. He's previously advocated increasing presidential control of the Fed board. And the Bank of England has cut its policy rate by 25 basis points to 4%, as widely expected, although it was a cautious decision, with 4 out of 9 policymakers voting for no change. The US 2-year Treasury yield rose to 3.72%, the 10-year was at 4.25%, and the 30-year auction saw below average demand, markets pricing in a 90% chance the Fed funds rate will be cut at the September meeting. The US dollar rose on reports the Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller is emerging as a top candidate to serve as the central bank's chair. The British pound rose after the Bank of England's split decision on rates, and the Aussie dollar has risen to 65.2 US cents. Bitcoin is up to around 117,000 US dollars. Oil prices have dropped for a 6th consecutive session after Russia confirmed that President Putin would meet his US counterpart in the coming days, raising expectations of a diplomatic end to the war in Ukraine. Brent crude futures down at $66 a barrel. Copper is little changed, iron ore falling marginally to $101 US dollars a tonne, and gold has been buoyed by safe haven demand after the US tariffs came into effect. Spot gold up more than 0.5% to $3,392 an ounce. Among the companies reporting results today are Block, Nick Scali and QBE. That is your day ahead, and we'll see you again next week.